have been so fortunate in life. One of the remarkable things that happened to me, I had astronomy from a very famous professor, Carl Sagan, and I know many of you, everyone in here was touched by the book and the film Contact. And I spoke with Professor Sagan a few times after I was graduated successfully, and it was clear to me that his inspiration and his muse and the person that he could reflect his ideas from and improve them and change all of our lives was his remarkable wife. Ladies and gentlemen, Druyan.
So good to be in a room full of people who believe in the future and who really want to know the universe as it really is. Planetary Society was founded in 1980, and that was also the same year that Carl Sagan and I and Steve Soter wrote the Cosmos television series. It was a busy year for Carl, all of them were, as co-founder of the society. And his dream, which I very much share, was the notion that science belongs to everyone, that it's a birthright, that if you want to be a participant in a democratic society, then you have to understand something of the science and technology that the society is founded upon. You can't be a decision maker without understanding this. And so it's my great pleasure I think this is one of the first public announcements of the fact that we are doing a new Cosmos television series. Thank you. Thank you, and some wonderful things about this from my point of view. One is that it will be on the Fox television network. So instead of talking to the audience that already understands science, and appreciates it, and has some acquaintance with the method of thinking that science requires, we are going to be able to make the case not only for science as a way of understanding the universe, as a way of thinking, as a way of looking at absolutely everything, but also to tell something of the great stories in the history of science. The notion of science as an enterprise that is really a community of minds that stretches back to antiquity, to the first scientists of ancient Greece, and forward to the stars, and tonight to Mars. And I'm so excited about this for so many different reasons. I was lucky enough to be here in 1976 for the Viking landing. And I remember the thrill of seeing those first images of Mars painting one stripe at a time on the monitors at JPL. Our first close-up look from the surface on Mars. And I've been here many times since. We're coming up on the 35th anniversary of the Voyager launches, Voyagers 1 and 2. Unbelievably, they were launched in 1977, and now Voyager 1 is the furthest thing that human hands have ever touched. showing us not only our first close-up look at the worlds of the outer solar system, but also telling us where the heliopause is, that place where the solar wind gives way to the interstellar medium. We are sending our robot emissaries into the vast interstellar ocean of space. Now, I know as a species we have plenty to be ashamed of. We are not taking the kind of care of this planet and the other species with whom we share it, let alone each other. And science, as Carl used to say, has demoted us from our centrality, from our central place in the universe. We had to give that up. In order to know the universe as it really is, we had to give up that infantile sense that we are the crown of creation, the reason for the universe, that we live at the center of a universe made just for us. The fact that we do science is a kind of sign of mental health. It's that we can bear our tininess, and we can bear to recognize that the pale blue dot on which we live is so very small. It seems to me that there are ethical implications when you look at that dot, as Carl famously did, that change us. Tonight, our spacecraft is barreling towards Mars. This is something we can be proud of. We can do these amazing things, and we can do them without hurting each other and without despoiling our planet. So it's my hope that this new Cosmos television series, which will be seen not only on Fox, but also on National Geographic in 175 countries, will convey something of the grandeur of the universe revealed by science, and of our optimistic feeling that if we use our intelligence in the service of our planet and our species, and in the cause of finding out how the universe came to be, what it's made of, why it's this way, that we will have a great future. And so one of the reasons I'm so thankful tonight is because a man named Seth MacFarlane made it possible for Cosmos to be shown on the Fox television network. And I'm told that he will be here sometime in the next few minutes. So, without him, this never would have happened. Excuse me? Did you want to say something, Bill?
I thought you were building to this moment to take questions.
I would happily take questions, especially until Seth gets here. He called me just a few moments ago, just before I came up here, and said he's on his way. And so if anybody has any questions, I would be honored to answer them, and until Seth can join us.
But Seth just is an enthusiast. He's
No,
like us.
actually, I think I just made it very clear that without him, Cosmos would not be on Fox. We wouldn't have the wherewithal to do it the way we wanted to do it from the beginning, to be true to the original message of the original series without any interference from anyone telling us what we could say and what we couldn't say, but also to be able to tell a whole round of new stories about the quest for knowledge, and to use some of the central elements that were so successful in the original series, but then to take a leap from there to what we hope will be a worthy successor. I see some questions. Be happy to take one.
Hello. I think I already know the answer to this, but would you like to reveal who's hosting?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to reveal who's hosting the new Cosmos?
Yes, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson. who has a long association with the Planetary Society and an even longer association with Carl and with me. And one of the very lovely things about this new series is that having known Neil since he was a very, very young man, it's really thrilling to think that the torch is being passed from Carl to someone we know and love so well. Please.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for the work that you do and that your husband has done. It's the way with which you both speak to the heart of the things that everybody here cares about so much. It's just been wonderful to grow up with.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you. That is, you know, I thank you from my heart for that. Please.
Sir.
Sorry? Please.
When is the new Cosmos series premiering?
We haven't announced the air date yet. It's something that we and Fox are trying to play close to the vest for maximum excitement. So unfortunately, that's something I can't reveal today. But I also want to say that my producing partner, Mitchell Canold, please stand up, is right there. And he and I have been working on this for 6 years, and it, you know, until Seth became involved, we went from pillar to post. Every network wanted it, but nobody wanted to let us do it the way we felt we had to do it in order to protect the legacy of the original series. And Mitchell was steadfast in supporting me in this feeling that we had to have the freedom and creative control to do a real Cosmos, something that, you know, that would reflect well on the previous one and would also protect Carl's legacy for never pulling any punches or cutting any corners on the science or the wonder. And so, again, without Seth, we would never be at this point. Please.
Thank you, Ms. Sagan. Being who you are and having the opportunity to go and be closely related in science and see things like the Mars, you know, first images and you know, being wrapped up with Carl Sagan and just everything. I just want to ask you personally, in your life, what is one of the most amazing things that you have learned or experienced? Just you.
You know, my life has been a dream. I have to say, I must be the luckiest person. You know, I guess my greatest discovery was June 1st, 1977, when Carl Sagan and I realized how profoundly we loved each other, and that we would spend the rest of his life together. That was nearly 20 trips around the sun with Carl Sagan. Can you imagine what that was like? Can you imagine the... What fills me with joy is that, you know, I am the recipient of so much goodwill and love inspired by Carl, more now than even 15 years ago when Carl died. It's just absolute, seems to be a kind of a wave that just gets bigger and more amazing to me. And what I know, because I lived with him for 20 years and worked with him for 20 years, he was so much more amazing than anyone has any inkling of. And that's the thing that's just so, such a source of lasting joy for me. Because, you know, right after Carl and I found love, it was during the making of the Voyager Interstellar Record, which are these golden phonograph records on both Voyagers. And they're a mixture of world music, the sounds of Earth, greetings in 59 human languages and 1 whale language, 118 pictures of life on Earth. But at the heart of that record are my brain waves, my rapid eye movement, my heartbeat. All of those electrical impulses turned into sound while I meditated for an hour. I had said to Carl days before, do you think that if I were to hook myself up, get hooked up to a computer, that my feelings could be turned into data, and that data could be turned into sound? And then the Voyager record, if it was ever intercepted by extraterrestrials, could be decrypted so that they could read my mind, what I was thinking, for an hour in June of 1977. And I remember Carl looking at me and saying, 1,000 million years is a long time, Annie. Why don't you go do it? Because that is the shelf life, the projected shelf life of these 2 records. 1,000 million years. Moving through the galaxy, 38,000 miles an hour in 2 different directions. Maybe some extraterrestrial, spacefaring extraterrestrial, flag it down. Take this record, listen to Chuck Berry and Blind Willie Johnson and Louis Armstrong and Javanese gamelan music and Peruvian panpipes and Mexican popular song and all the other music, and then hear my meditation. Well, this meditation was done 2 days after Carl and I told each other that we loved each other. And so the furthest things that have ever been touched by human hands not only have a mother's first words to her newborn baby, a kiss, but also the heart sounds and the brain waves of a young woman madly in love. That, at that intersection of our best science, our best engineering, our best mathematics, both Voyagers exceeded the design specifications, the wildest design specifications of its engineers and designers, fulfilled every scientific mission, and invented new scientific missions that it went on to fulfill. And at the heart of it is this feeling. That's what it is to be a human being, is to have not just the brain, not just the eye, not just the ear, but the heart and the soul in one place, and that was Carl Sagan. So knowing him would probably, in my mind, was the greatest discovery of my life.
She's next.
Hi.
Who says science isn't poetic?
Right.
I'd like to suggest that perhaps you could air that on as the first part of Cosmos.
Thank
I
you.
stood up simply because every molecule in my being wants to thank you billions and billions of times.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please.
I'm glad you were speaking about the records, because that's what I got up to ask you about.
Oh, great.
I'm a musician. About 3 weeks ago, I was up at Von Karman Auditorium, and I saw the full-size mock-up of Voyager and got a chance for the first time to listen to the music that's on those records. And I think that I have never felt more pride in being a human being than that we sent this extraordinary music out to the universe. So my question is, Bach, Beethoven, Berry, the Bulgarians, how did you choose? It's a lot of music to have to sift through.
Well, it was a very hard choice because we felt that this was a kind of Noah's Ark of human culture. And this was a sacred task. It's January 1976-77, and NASA is saying, okay, we can put this record on both Voyagers. And we immediately, Carl assembled a committee, and we immediately, a group of 5 people, to figure out what that should be. And one of my tasks was to canvass ethnomusicologists, composers, the great Alan Lomax, who with his father, John Lomax, was responsible for rescuing the music of the Mississippi Delta. He was a genius musicologist who was as expert on, the music of Bulgarian shepherdesses as he was on Robert Johnson. And so he was one of the people who informed our search. But, we were operating in a time before there was such a thing as world music. Nobody talked about world music. And so I think when the NASA officials came to hear the record, and they realized that so much of it was from other parts of the world, and we had amazing Japanese shakuhachi piece, a Chinese piece performed on the chin, a stringed instrument, Javanese gamelan, a Navajo night chant. I think they were listening to this and they were expecting, we were going to be sending American popular music, and that's what we were going to do. How did we decide? We had 3 or 4 months of exhaustive searching and soul searching, debates. Finally, Carl and Timothy Ferris and I had the final say on what the music would be, not because we were the most qualified by any means to make that decision. I mean, the hubris of someone who knew nothing about Indian music, picking out the greatest Indian vocal raga in a tradition that goes back thousands of years. It was just, we knew that there was a certain amount of arrogance involved, but we wanted everybody to be on that record. We wanted, we were thinking of the Voyager message as a message from a planet, not a message from one group of people. And so, there were deliberations and there were arguments, but we finally got to a point where we had total agreement. And in looking back, some things that we wanted on the record that didn't get on were, for instance, we wanted to put "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles on. And I was thrilled to get telegrams from all 4 Beatles, they were all alive then, instantaneously saying, please, absolutely, this will be the greatest honor of our lives. And then the music publisher, Northern Songs, said, well, no, you can't do this. We have to charge, you a royalty. Now, the funniest thing is that, in all record contracts, in all publishing contracts, movie contracts, they
in
always have this...
perpetuity throughout the universe. I've signed them.
Right. They always say universal rights, but they don't mean it. And they don't even mean galactic rights, let alone, but we meant it, and we didn't want the taxpayers to pay for this. And so we were paying for 2 spacecraft, we were paying a 2-cent royalty per spacecraft and per song. And Northern Songs wouldn't allow it, and so tragically, the Beatles are not on the Voyager record. But yeah, it was a hard decision, and I'm sure, people who are more knowledgeable than us probably would have made a better choice. But
it's a great story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.